Just a few statements at the beginning. And in these statements, something opens up that is wider than the mainstream or what we think on the surface of our lives. As you have just heard before, faith and fear are not alternatives. Faith is about acting in spite of fear, moving forward with trembling hearts, with not having security and safety and thinking of, I got it all together. The second thing is, Jesus does not protect us from the storm, but Jesus is with us in the storm and through the storm, guiding us, surrounding us, and helping us hold on for dear life to make it through the storms of life. And the invitation and the question is, Jesus is asking people, follow me. And as the ruler, the official says, I want to follow you. Yes, I want to follow. That invitation is for each one of us. And the question is, what have you put off? Or what gets in the way of following Jesus? What attachments, what is it that keeps you, that keeps us together from following Jesus wholeheartedly, from leaning into, from doing what we're called to do, from giving expression what is on our hearts, what wants to come into the world through us. And then, as always, and we know it in our heads, but to let it sink a little bit deeper, following Jesus is not an easy thing. It's not easy. But it's worth it, my friends. It's really worth it. It's really worth it. Coming to this gospel reading we have just heard, one of these persons, and when it says a lawyer or a teacher or an official, it was in the Jewish community someone who was deeply rooted in the faith and in the scriptures, in the Torah. So when it says this person comes to Jesus and says, I want to follow you, that is his intention. That's what he wants. And then Jesus doesn't promise easy ride. Jesus says, you know what? Foxes have dens, birds have their nests, people have their homes, their comfortable place. My life, following me, is not going to be the easy ride. It will mean, like today we would think, like couch hopping. You don't have a real home. What is it that holds you, that holds me back from being all in for Jesus? What are those things? It reminds me of a different story of Jesus where he says, the banquet is set, the feast of God's kingdom, it's right present, right here and right now. He sends his disciples out and says, bring them all in, the feast, the kingdom of heaven right here, right now, to celebrate, to party, to enjoy it. God on earth. And they go out, and the first one says, well, I bought a pair of oxen. And the second one says, I bought a farm. And the third one says, I'm going to get married, or my children get married. And there are all these things, all the preoccupations, all things that are part of our lives. And they put off the invitation to join the party, to follow Jesus, to come together in the here and now to connect with the living one. They put it off because in their minds something more important is at hand to be taken care of. And Jesus says, no, it's about the here and now. What are you too attached to? What do you think you have to take care of first before you join in, before you follow Jesus? And that's where the other fellow comes to Jesus who says, I'll come, but first let me take care and bury my dad. He says, well, let the dead people bury the dead one. That sounds very harsh. But how important is that call, that immediacy, that now is the time to commit. Now is the time to follow. Right now. It's not tomorrow, not the next week, not putting it off. It's about the right here and right now, that invitation for us. What does it mean to face the storms with Jesus? It's nothing new. It has been the journey of those who follow Jesus for more than 2,000 years. And when we hear this story, we think of, well, they were in the boat with Jesus way a long time ago. It's a story about them, what happened then. No. The story is about us where we feel like not on solid ground, where someone is rocking our boat, where we feel like this is not really safe ground to walk on. Where and how do you experience that? And where and how are you concerned of not being safe enough to face the challenges in your life and in our community? Shannon Watts, right on December 14th, 2012, on the evening news, when she got the information on the news from the Sandy Hook shooting, she made a commitment that very day, said, I do not want this to happen to any other parents, that their children are shot. She started the movement, Moms Demand Actions for Gun Sense in America. Now, do you think that was an easy journey to do that? Do you think that was just easy peasy, just like any other day? No. It takes courage that she stood up and said, you know what? This does not have to continue like this forever. We can make a difference within the parameter of the Second Amendment. Yes, we can do. And from that movement and the alliance of other movements came the Sandy Hook promise that in spite of the dangers and the tragedy, something good can come from it. And they bring this program to other schools and organizations that say, there are signs, there are ways to recognize imminent danger or signs of violence or instability, all of that. So the awareness of preventing violence. Not easy, no, but it's worthwhile. It makes a difference. I love this great, great leader, Michael Curry. He is an Episcopal priest and bishop, and this is how he looks at the world. Lots of people think like, how did we get here? And we look for root causes. Well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. That's why we are where we are, because that's how it just came to be. Now, Michael Curry has a different perspective. He looks at what is possible. A better world is possible. There is more compassion, more care, more justice, more fairness. There is so much more possible. He looks at what is possible instead of asking why. He asks, well, why not? What keeps us from moving in that direction? You see the different perspective? The one is, I take the status quo for, that's it. Not a lot of movement there. But when you think of It's possible. Something better is possible. And why not? Why not us moving in that direction? No leader, no spiritual leader has ever moved in that direction without faith in spite of fear. They're not alternatives. You remember Martin Luther King Jr., he said, when you cannot fly, run. If you cannot run, walk. If you cannot walk, crawl, but keep moving. Don't stay put. Keep moving. What have you been putting off that really matters, that would make a difference, because you were too worried and too afraid to deal with it? What have you been putting off because you were too concerned, too worried, too afraid to deal with it? Faith and fear, they're not alternatives. Living with confidence means moving forward in spite of fears. We come to a time of offering. What do we offer God? On one hand, each and everyone has something to offer. You have gifts, you have treasures, and I mean not just supporting here St. Paul's, I mean beyond St. Paul's, just raking leaves, mowing the lawn of someone you offer, you do to Jesus what you do and help someone else. But also we have this mixed feelings, the worries, the cares, what is it that we're not to hold on to too tightly, but to open up and let it go, put it in God's good hands. So what is it that you are called to offer to the living God? What is it? What will you offer? Let us offer our very selves and whatever is in there.